astrologically right now, actually tomorrow, Venus conjuncts Pluto. And this is the first of 3 times that Venus will do so. And it stirs things up around relationships, around relating. And it also asks us to access our personal power in a way that can feel really uncomfortable. So I thought it was a good time to do this talk. And it's something that's coming up a lot in conversations or people asking questions. And so, yeah, I thought it would be helpful. And so we'll just start with kind of what is a karmic relationship. One of the things that I really want to kind of begin with is that it is of this planet and only of this planet that we deal with, well, I shouldn't say that, maybe other planets too, but in spirit realm, we don't deal with duality. There is no good or bad. And so oftentimes when people hear the word karmic relationship, they think of negative or it's bad. That's not true. Anytime we are avoiding doing the work that we came here to do, because we all came here to do work, anytime we're avoiding that, that is just the lessons are gonna try and come in whatever way they can. And so because of that avoidant nature that as humans, many of us have, the lessons will get bigger, they snowball, they'll get bigger and bigger. I picked a very winter theme here because it's almost winter. The snowball effect happens where it's like maybe a little thing will come up and then you ignore it or you avoid, you turn away from doing the work, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. There is no good or bad. There is simply doing the work or avoiding the work. And there are naturally times in our life when we are gentle and compassionate with ourselves where we can't dive into the work, where we are in survival mode, where we are in the accumulation of karma, not in the resolution of karma. And so I just want to say that because it is true. When we are under fight or flight, or we're under deep stress or in survival periods, we can't access the karmic healing. We're accumulating karma. And accumulating karma isn't a negative thing. That's another thing. Accumulating karma is not a negative thing. Does maybe mean some more go-arounds here on the planet, but it's not a negative thing. There's nothing that's good or bad about it. So let's go into what is karma. And everybody probably has a slightly different definition of karma. To me, it's simply lessons. And when we are in that accumulating karma, we're accumulating more lessons to have to process through later. And this is because the parts of our brain that access the lessons is the higher part of the brain, and the lower part of the brain is the survival brain. So when we get to a grander scheme of things, it does make sense of putting a mass amount of people under fight or flight to accumulate more karma and more go-arounds on the planet. And I'm not going to go into this too much, but this is the overarching theme of why this work is so important to me, is because when your energy is not yours, it is being mined by someone else. And there's a lot of mining happening right now on the planet. And the humans can be used as a battery source, just like the sun can be used as a battery source. It's energy. So when you are purposefully avoiding the lessons, when you are not wanting to dive into the work because it's too hard, or whatever it is, that is someone else is using that energy to is mining that energy, so to speak. So this is why it's so important to do the work, to step into the lessons, to really understand the echo of karma and how to resolve it in a way that's going to be not only helpful to you, but help the evolution of the planet. Okay, so karma on its own is simply lessons in my mind. It's just simply lessons, and it's an echo. Whatever we are putting out right, is going to be echoed back to us. And so the thing that's tricky about this is if there is no good or bad, right? If we release that idea of good or bad, we can be putting out an echo of something like victim, being a victim, or not being clear-minded, and that is echoed back to us. So again, for us to really fully get this bigger picture is to understand that there is no good or bad. There is simply just what is. And it's really hard for us to break away from that. That's like a very 3D matrix plug-in, is by having us be in good or bad. And so that's why what we see happening in the bigger world right now, it's really important for us to have that lens of there is no good or bad. And that's a very difficult thing for I think many people on the planet right now to be in the energy of, right? That there is no good or bad. There is no good or bad. There's only lessons. And for those souls that have had less incarnations on this planet, either they came here with not as many lessons to go through, or they are in the process of accumulating karma. And so we will often see this as people that are just like, that term, like balls to the wall. So like young people who are all of a sudden thrown into becoming famous, and they're getting everything that in the earthly realm you think you want. They're accumulating karma. They're accumulating lessons. It's not, there is no good or bad. And it's very easy for older souls or people that have had many incarnations to look at situations like that and think that that's a good thing. To think that like rising to fandom and making so much money and like life is super easy for that person. That is a very young soul way of looking at it. Okay. And so if you are an older soul, it helps to come at life from that older soul lens, which is, in this lifetime, it's about resolving a lot of the buildup that has accumulated over many lifetimes. And because of this, you will be asked to do this work in relationships. You will be asked to do this work out in the world. You will be asked to do this work with the people that you are working with. Like if you're, have your own business, or if you're working under somebody, there might be a karmic thing there, right? There often is if you're an older soul. Likewise, with your children, with your children's friends, like you can have karmic relationships with anyone. And it's really important to come at it from a new lens, where there's this very new age thing about, oh, it's a karmic. And so you just want to run away. You want to run away as fast as possible. And the problem with that is that if you're running away from anything, you're running towards something else. And to instead sit with and create that resolution, whatever that looks like, it doesn't mean staying or going. It's a different way of understanding it, where there's not the hook. There's not the hook in it anymore. You have resolved the hook. You have literally melted and dissolved the thing that was tying you to this person. When you can do that, you have resolved karma and you have come into a new lesson, right? So karma on its own is literally just tethered to the density of this planet. So when we are a spirit, and if you've been in classes with me before, like when I talk about this, it's like, this is just my perspective. When we are in the spirit realm, before we incarnate here, we look down and we're like, oh, that is so easy. Like, that's such a short amount of time that we're there. Like, let's go, And it's not until we're born that we are tethered to the density of this planet. And how we're tethered, I believe, is through karma. So this is also why you might see some younger souls, if they don't have a high accumulation of karma, they do seem lighter. They do seem like there's something like light about this person. They don't have an accumulation tethered to the density of this planet. Again, not good or bad. They might be here to accumulate karma and learn more lessons that way in the future. They might be here only for one incarnation to do an important thing and then get off the planet. Not good or bad. If you are on this planet right now at this time, you are here to resolve the density and you are here to have the lessons, not good or bad. What is a relationship? A relationship is a container to explore. I often think about this idea that relationship has the word ship in it, right? Like you think of a ship, it's a container to explore. You're on it. you're on it, you're in it. And oftentimes if it is karmic, there is this element of feeling like there's no escape. So with that being said, it can be your children's parents, it can be your mother, it can be, siblings. It can have this element of like, you really can't get out of it easily. You can get out of it, but you can't get out of it easily. Why is this? Because there's a lesson, karmic. If it's easy to exit, it's likely not a karmic relationship. Now, not all karmic relationships carry such a strong tethering. And one of the ways I explain this is the hometown that you grew up in, and there were certain families or certain kids at school, and you had a connection with them, but it wasn't heavy. So like these kind of karmic relationships are a little bit easier to exit out of, but the thing is, they carry an echo. So they have that echo resonance. In some way, they were serving some lesson. So even if they were like childhood friends or family friends or people in your neighborhood, you'll often think back to that relationship. So even if you're not still tethered to it, it often comes to mind, or there's something to it, right? And so there's a lesson in there. There's things in there that it's important for you to see or learn from. So this can also be blood relation, otherwise, marriage, business partnership, anything that you are tethered to. And we know that relationships are a place for us to learn. We know that. However, with the karmic relationship, it can be harder to access those lessons. And the reason for that is that there's often some sort of energy in the relationship space that makes it harder to hear the person, makes it harder to see the person clearly, makes it harder to speak to that person clearly. All of those things, the ways that we relate to each other, have a bunch of junk in the space between that makes it harder to see the truth of the relationship. And I'm gonna guess that you know what I'm talking about, where you can have a friend that you love, but there's certain things that you find it very difficult to speak to or about in the relationship that really trigger you or really ignite a wound or really bring something up that feels very heavy and dense. Okay, so if we think of this idea of karma being an echo and our relationships being the place where we learn and explore, it's important to understand that these echoes aren't always pleasant and that there is density. And when we think about light, the only way that we recognize light is when it hits something dark. It's illuminating something. And so this karmic idea of an echo, it's almost like this memory. So this is really important because you can have, if you think about memory being in our blood, like our blood is literally like a memory of our ancestry and our DNA, then honestly, we would have karma with a lot of people. We would have lessons with a lot of people. We would have this thing wanting resolution because of the suffering on this planet. Like if you think about going back in time to your great-great-grandfather, if your great-great-grandfather was, and trigger warning here, was, gassed in a chamber by a certain man, that like he saw the man, he knew that man that like hit that button or pulled that lever or whatever it was, there's karma there. And so if the karma is carried in the blood, you might meet that great great grandson or great great granddaughter and have karma with that person. Okay. Now, depending on the lessons that you came here to learn, that might not be the case. You might not have that ancestral work to do as much. But it's really important to understand that there's this echo nature about it. And so you can have a really trigger response to someone and not know where it comes from, but it's literally like in your cells, in your DNA, that is causing you to have this strong reaction to someone. So to understand that is really powerful, because if we go back to the beginning of this talk where I was saying there's no good or bad. There's no good or bad. If there's no good or bad, that empowers us. The power is taken from us when we fall into victim perpetrator. When we fall into victim perpetrator, that is a very old world model of keeping people stuck at a certain level. When we graduate from that, and when we see there is no good or bad, that's when the lessons can come. That's when we're freed of our karma. That's when the density starts to lighten. That's when that, I talked about like the light hitting the dark. It's like it really is able to go so much further, because we're able to see those darker places not as good or bad, simply as lessons. So that old saying, have you ever heard the saying, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And so when we do the work, when we do the healing, we see things differently. That echo changes. What's reflected back to us changes. So one of the questions that I often ask people that feel like they are in a karmic relationship is this relationship still a place where I can expand? Is this relationship still a place where I can take up space? And if the answer is no, it's your indication to jump off the ship and get space back to yourself. And what's very confusing to people is I often say, even if you're married to this person, people jump so quickly to that duality of in it or not in it. And one of the things I invite people to do is, what would it be like to just take space and focus on yourself and do some inner work without needing to run from something, without needing to get out? I have to get out of this. What if it wasn't such a trigger for you around victim perpetrator, around I can't be myself and they're keeping me down? What if that was resolved within the context of you not running away? And that's where the true power is. And that's where so many people don't feel like they can do that. And so they run. And when they're running, they run right into something else. And we see this time and time again. And this is the looping, where you can run from one karmic relationship right into another. Because guess what? If you've been on the planet long enough, you have enough karma to go around. So the lessons might be a little different, but it's the same loop. You're brought back to something. I feel trapped in this relationship. I feel trapped in this relationship. I run out, run back into a relationship that feels different. And all of a sudden, I feel trapped in this relationship. I feel trapped in this relationship. You're right back to that core lesson. What is it that's making you feel trapped? And that work, because it is so hard to access, often gets shoved away. And people stay stuck in that feeling of feeling trapped and not feeling free. So it's really important to understand that karmic relationships aren't good or bad. There is no duality with these karmic relationships. They're simply lessons, and they're simply resolution that wants to happen. So I'll give an example really quickly. I had a client who I just did one chart reading for her. She lived in the town where I live, and we went our own ways. There was some connection to this person, but as that usually is with my work, we both went on our own ways. And I was all of a sudden needing to find a house to live in. And this house pops up on the search engine. It's amazing. It's like glorious. It's this beautiful, huge old home. And I want it. And I reach out to the person and like, send them a message, you don't know who it is. And it ends up being this woman. And she's like, oh my gosh, I so want you can rent this home. And the day we move in, there was this crazy synchronicities with moving in. We move in, and I start to see, as we're closer, all the things that she promised and like the things that she said were all she was starting to kind of back out of. And like all of a sudden she's wanting to stay in one of the like cabins in the back, and she's like right outside my window every day, and I can feel this like she wants something from me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. And it was a year of that before I got out, and it was so crazy because as I moved out, I had a house cleaner come clean the house. I had her inspect the house. She said it all looked great. And a month later, when she owes me, because I knew she was hurting for money, a month later when she owes me my deposit and everything, she all of a sudden is like, the house wasn't cleaned. And I'm like, you saw the house cleaner come to the house. I paid someone to come clean. All these things, da, 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 da. And really what it was is that she didn't have the money. But she made it as though it was my doing and that I didn't do a good enough job. And that's a karmic relationship right there, is that we were set and we had a contract, right? There was things, and it took me a really long time. Actually, my friend's a lawyer. I was like, I want to get this money back. I have 3 kids, blah, 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 blah. I want this money back. And it took a really long time. And she did end up giving me, I think she gave me 600 of the 2,000 and some odd money. But regardless, she'll probably be watching this. Regardless, I had to resolve the karma on my own. I had to be like, okay, karma resolved, lessons learned. I surrender, lessons learned. And there was some karmic thing there between us. Maybe in a past life, I had done the same thing to her. Maybe I stole from her. Maybe, we have to get to this place where there's a surrender. Lesson learned, lesson learned. If I have a connection with someone, probably if there's a strong resonance, I shouldn't have a contract with them if I don't understand what the karma is. So it's not to say that you have to avoid people. It's just to say if there's so here's how to know if it's karmic when you're meeting someone new. And again, when I say this, we're not just talking about intimate partnership. Although I have had in my life where I can tell there's some type of attraction that someone has to me. It's like this magnetic pull. Doesn't mean it's always sexual, but there's some magnetic pull, and I can feel it, and it takes effort to be like, I'm not going to go down that road with that person. Karma resolved. I'm not going there. So there's some magnetic pull. There's something, it's like this, there's an energy that's bigger than just meeting the person. You feel it. You're like, this person seems familiar. This person, it feels like there's something there. And that's how you know. It's almost like a very strong magnetic pull to the person. But you'll know because it doesn't always feel super healthy. Like oftentimes you'll feel like you owe them something, or you want to give to them, or you want something from them. And so if there's any type of like wanting to gain or to give, that is that duality of victim perpetrator. You can get in this loop where you're just playing that out back and forth. Hence my story, where you're playing out this victim perpetrator. I feel victimized by you. I feel victimized by you, and like, I want to give. I feel like there's, and for her, she's probably like, I have this home for you to rent. That's like a giving. And I'm like, here's some money. That's a giving. But then like, it gets all murky. So with that, it's not to say you have to avoid people. It's not to say that you can't go into it, but you have to go into it really clean. And one of the ways that you can do this is by doing the inner work. Let's say you do meet someone and they want to go into business with you. What are the feelings of wanting to go into business with this person? And does it have any kind of duality attached to it? Does it have some sense of, another one is like, I don't know if you've had this experience. I've had this experience a lot in my life where people are like, I can help you get ahead. Like, having my own business, but even ever since I was a little child, like, there was a woman who was like, I want to paint you. Like, I want to paint a picture of you when I was a kid. And that was karmic. Like, I didn't end up going to that because I was like, there's something here. It doesn't feel completely clean, right? And the same thing, like I got a Taekwondo scholarship. And I was like, nope. When I was a kid, I was like, nope. And there is a fine line between like just shutting everyone down. But I feel like when we're children, that clarity is so much more there. And we start to lose it. We start to question ourselves the more that we're conditioned of this time-space reality, right? We're conditioned to like turn that down a little bit. This is what's good for you. This is what you should do, X, Y, and Z. Follow the script. Don't, think outside the box. But when we're kids, that's really clear. And so one of the things that you can do when you're like, someone's offering you something like, oh, I can help you, I can do this for you, really sit with it. Does it feel clean? Is there some energy exchange? And this is what I always tell people. There's always some sort of energy exchange. So if someone's offering to do something for you for free, likely they're like, I'll do that for free. I'll just pull some of your energy. I'll just borrow some of this because I'm doing this. I'm serving you. That old duality. I am providing for you so I can take from you. So that's why money is actually important on this planet, because it's making the energy exchange cleaner. Here's this paper. Take this paper and I will receive this thing from you. Whereas if there's no energy exchange on the conscious level, it all happens on the subconscious level, right? So even by you sitting here and like being this, right? And like listening to this and seeing what and discerning what makes sense to you and what you want to keep and what is like, no, that doesn't ring true for me. I'm not going to carry that. There is something that you're receiving from this. And the intention with anyone offering something is that, maybe you'll give later, or maybe there's something that you'll share this with someone and more people will hear about it, and then that will serve my business. Like, nothing is without an energetic exchange. And anybody that tries to tell you that there is, like, oh, I'm just here of service, I'm just here serving, be very wary of that. And that's why the old world model of like being a priest or being a servant of God, or like this that I have the connection to spirit and I'm just here to give, there's always a shadow to that. Always. Now, the difference is if there are spiritual leaders that do accept money, that do, it doesn't have to be money. It can be like just their congregation supports them in some way. That's the energetic exchange. But if there's not a clear, cognizant, in your awareness, energetic exchange happening, there's something happening below the surface. So that can be one of the biggest indicators of if something is karmic or not. So if there's this feeling like you can't figure something out, it's an accumulation of information, not just from this lifetime. It could be from past lifetime. It could be from your ancestors' lifetime. But it's a really important thing to be aware of, because our blind spots are where we can be taken advantage of, right? And so when we're always going to have blind spots, because 90% of our brain is in the subconscious. We're always going to have blind spots. But here's the thing. Just because we're blind to something doesn't mean we can't feel it. And if we are conditioned to turn off our feelings, we are conditioned to turn off our feelings. We're conditioned to look at our screens, not feel, avoid. And we're conditioned to not listen to our body and listen to our feelings. Just because we have blind spots doesn't mean we can't feel. And it's really important to honor and acknowledge and amplify those feelings. What is this I feel? What is this I feel? Where do I feel it in my body? Where do I feel it in my body? What is it telling me? What is the message? As someone who has had many, 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 many karmic relationships in many types of forms, if we don't get to the feeling, if we don't get to where it is magnetically lighting up our bodies, our physical bodies, our energetic bodies, we are missing so many lessons. We're missing so many lessons. And what that's causing us to do is have to incarnate again and again and again. So many of the loopings that you have right now in your relationships, if they don't reach resolution, you will be back here. And that sucks. Like, many of us have had more incarnations than we really have necessarily needed to or wanted to, simply because we're avoiding. We get distracted. Big flashy lights, nice fancy car. It's easy to get distracted, or distracted by the trauma, distracted by the victimization, distracted by the pain, the hurt, but not really being able to access the healing of the pain, healing of the hurt, right? And so we're going to get to that. I just want to make sure that I kind of go into this in a deep enough way for you to grasp onto something. It's not that it's all going to land right in this moment, but for you to grasp onto something and start to unwind the conditioning of good or bad, victim, perpetrator, because that's the looping that keeps you imprisoned. That's the looping that keeps you going through the cycles without actually getting to the lessons. Okay, so jumping ship doesn't necessarily mean running away from the relationships, and it's really important to understand that, because we need space to understand the dynamics. We need space to feel in our bodies like what it's lighting up. What is it lighting up, so that I can do the healing, so that in many times you can continue the relationship. I never thought with the father of my children, I never thought we'd have a positive relationship, but we do. And it's really important to understand that even at the time, if you can't see beyond, you're like, I don't ever see this being something positive. Keep doing the work, because you will be surprised. You will be surprised what kind of amazing resolution can happen. I mean, even in a more extreme sense, you hear about these amazing, unfortunately unique situations where, I forget the name of it, but basically, it's like conflict resolution, but it's a bigger, like, it's some type of way, like someone commits a crime against someone or kills someone, and their parents or their children go sit with the person and have resolution. I'm getting the chills, because it's like, do you know how much courage, how much will it takes to be able to do that? Probably on both sides, right? But especially if you've been the victim of that violence, of that crazy, insane, and horrible, horrific experience, right? But that resolution echoes out resolution. If we're staying stuck in good and bad, icky and yummy, like if we're staying in that duality, we are missing the point, because we're echoing out non-resolution. We're echoing out running away from things. We're echoing out not looking, avoiding things, okay? So it's really important to understand that. Let's see. I want to see if you want to type in the chat if anybody has any thoughts or questions, and I'm going to move on. I think I just have one more slide, and then we will do a little healing. Okay. So one of the things about karmic relationships and all the senses of the world, yes, old world, the old world. And this is especially true in intimate partnership, because, right, of course, relationships with like neighbors, friends, or someone that you depend on. So oftentimes there's a dependency thing about the karmic relationships. And I talked about that when you meet someone. If you feel this, like, want to take care of them, want to help them, or I want them to help me, like, help me get out of this, whatever. If there's some accumulation energy with the karmic relationships, it's very, I'm trying to close. I have some weird pop-ups coming up. Okay. With the karmic relationships, there's some accumulation energy trying to figure it out. And if there is that, it's really important to understand that if you don't resolve it for yourself on your own, not with this person. It's not always going to be. Actually, more often than not, with the karmic relationships, the resolution has to happen in here individually before anything can get resolved out in the exterior. And that's why I say taking the space, doing the inner work is the most important thing, because in order for it to hook in, there has to be this element of dependency, codependency to an extreme. Like, we are all dependent on each other for something. But really with the karmic relationships, there's this knot. It's like this knot that keeps you bound to the looping. And it often feels like, oh, well, if we avoid doing the work, I can still get this thing from this person. If I avoid doing the work, I can still rely on them for this thing. We can just ignore all this junk in between us and just still be able to, quote unquote, use each other. But that becomes amplified to the nth degree when it's an intimate partnership. So it often feels like there's an elephant in the room that no one's talking about, because you're just surviving. You're just looping. You're just doing the thing. You're just taking the steps. And there's still this addiction quality to it because you depend on each other. You need each other. It's like a drug. So to unbind yourself from that and do the inner work, it feels really unsafe a lot of the time. And it feels impossible a lot of the time. And so it requires you to take that space for yourself to do the inner work. And then when you come back, that knot cannot hook onto you anymore. And so then it requires that person, that other being, to look at their own knots. And this is what's so crazy, is that you have karma with someone. That same person with another person might not have that unhealthy addiction quality to it, right? And so that's why it's really important to understand this, because you have that karma with that person. No one else. Now, there are situations where there's group karma, and there's certain places on the planet where I believe that it's like a cauldron of that group karma trying to be resolved, but you're just stuck in it, and you're looping through board meeting after board meeting, where you're not getting anywhere, where an organization's not getting anywhere, where a school's not getting anywhere. It's looping because all of those people are avoiding doing their own work. Do our work, and we don't get stuck in the loop. But it feels impossible, and it often ignites when there is some kind of codependency happening. Even if it's uncomfortable, it's familiar. So the unfamiliar is unhooking. So it can ignite all of your lower brain fight or flight. I can't do this. I can't do this. And we see this all the time in people in relationships, right? Like, I can't live without this person. Even though I hate them, I can't live without this person. So to go in to calm the nervous system and to do the deep work, it's in our energy body to do this work. So I want to see if anybody has any thoughts or questions, and then I will guide us through just a really quick visualization healing, and then we'll wrap up. Before I do that, I just want to mention I will be sending out an email. I'm doing a special group opportunity related to the Venus retrograde that's happening. So it's a group coaching to do this work. The reason I'm doing this workshop is that there is transits happening, Venus conjunct Pluto, which are causing all this junk to be brought to the surface. It's an opportunity, but it's a very uncomfortable one to do the work. And so I'm creating this space and this container to be held in that and to support each other through that. So that's starting next Friday. And I'm doing a bundle that I will be sharing in an email that's good. It's a limited time bundle that's bundling some of my 2 relationship courses with that group opportunity. So if you're interested in that, definitely check the email that's going to be coming out. Okay, well, let's get into a comfortable seated position. And if you're in a space where you can't do this right now, just pause it or leave it and come back to it later when you feel like you can sit for 10 minutes or so. Okay, getting into a comfortable seated position, closing the eyes, feeling into your body. Just do a quick scan, see how your body feels in this moment. What parts of your body are calling for your attention, for your love? What parts of your body feel really good, really lovely? Underneath your feet, you can imagine beautiful, strong roots going down deep, deep, deep into the earth, connecting you to that great Gaia, that great Mama Earth energy that's nourishing, safe, and secure. It's a really strong, beautiful connection. Imagine your legs as beautiful, strong roots, drawing up this energy into the low belly, bringing this energy all the way up into your high belly. And then from your hips, imagine a beautiful waterfall. And from the back of your hips, you're just dropping off any tension, stress, worry, fear, anything that is just not serving your highest good in this very moment, anything that I've said, anything that you've done this morning, let it go. Let it go. Let this week go. Just be in the present moment. Any tension from your neck or your jaw or the back of your head, let it go down your waterfall and into the earth. Mama Earth is just taking away what you don't need anymore. And up above your head, imagine a beautiful halo or crown, inviting in your divine light, inviting in divine, beautiful, energizing light to come down through the crown of the head, opening up your crown a little bit bigger, a little bit brighter. Let that beautiful light wash down, clearing all the places and spaces, any cobwebs, letting them go. This light just beams through and clears any old energy that is not serving your highest good anymore, clarifying and clearing, bringing that energy all the way down to your belly. This is your chi, your light and your earth, and let it mix and move up through your heart, through your throat, through your face, through the top of your head, the back of your head, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, your high back, your low back, all of your organs, your hips, your legs, your feet. And as you're sitting here, I want you to think of a karmic relationship that doesn't feel like it's getting anywhere. There feels like this looping nature to it. There feels like there's things that are unspoken, unsaid, undealt with, unresolved. And draw an image of that person in your mind. Imagine them standing in front of you, giving yourself space, letting this person be about 10 feet away from you in your mind's eye. And with this example, we might not want to do someone who you feel like you have too much intensity with. Try to pick someone who it's like at a 6 in intensity wise, where you know that there's lessons, but it's not so activating that you feel like you can't do the work. And if it is someone that feels really activating, but you want to do the work, imagine them 20 feet away from you, further out away from you. Okay, so when you get your person and you put them out in front of you, I want you to just feel in your body this feeling of feeling like it's a karmic relationship. Where in your body do you feel it the most? Scan your body. Do you feel it at the top of your head? Do you feel it through your head? Do you feel it through your jaw or your neck? Through the back of your head, the back of your neck? Do you feel it through your heart? Do you feel it through your high belly? Do you feel it through your low belly? Do you feel it through your root? Where in your body do you feel the most activation of either uncomfortability or the unspokens, or just feeling like you can't say certain things or do certain things or be certain ways? Where is it ignited in your body? And allow yourself to feel that. Like, instead of avoiding it, instead of running away from it, allow yourself to feel in your body where you feel this the most. And let yourself get to the emotion. What is the emotion? Is it sadness? Is it grief? Is it fear? Is it disappointment? What is it? Take some good deep breaths and allow yourself to feel it. Don't run from it. Don't avoid it. Maybe there's a feeling of like wanting to collapse or wanting to not hold the energy. Then you need to let this person move further away from you. So go ahead and imagine them further out. Imagine a beautiful red rose out in front of you as a filter, really allowing you to hold your own space here. If there's any sense of collapsing, try to bring your posture straight up. Imagine wearing your crown on the top of your head. And then allow yourself to feel. There might be just some unknown, like some grief or some sadness, and you don't know why. You don't need to know why in order to feel. You don't need to know why in order to feel. So allow yourself to feel whatever it is that's coming up. You can ask yourself, how old is this? Is this from, 5 lifetimes ago, 7 lifetimes ago? Is this from a family wound? Is this from my own childhood? What is this feeling? How old is it? Oftentimes, our childhood mirrors a wounding from a past life that wants resolution. So you might have both come up. You might have an inner child part of you that really feels this. Be with that part of you that really feels this. Allow her or him to feel. You might even see a part of yourself crying or throwing a fit in anger. Allow yourself to hold space for this part of you, this part of your soul. And now you're going to imagine releasing whatever energy is ready to be released down your back and out your waterfall and into the earth. Only what's in your highest good to let go of now. That to release any gray old energy that is taking up space in your energy body that is really not even maybe yours. Let it go down your waterfall and into the earth. Whatever part of your body you are feeling this in, feel it easing up. Feel the clarity coming in. Allow yourself to imagine a beautiful golden light from highest good and highest good only, filling in the space that you cleared. After that gray energy completes and releases into the earth, allow yourself to see it going and see it gone and feel this clarity of this golden energy filling in the place and space that you cleared, encasing it in this beautiful golden web of light, making space for you to be in your power, to be in your will, to be in your creator today, and so on. And pick a color that feels like your soul essence right now. Pick a word of emotion that feels like your soul essence right now, either freedom, ease, joy, bliss, pleasure. Pick a word that you feel in this moment. Pick a color, attach that color to it, and let it get brighter and bigger. Let it fill your whole space, wherever you cleared, but also your whole body, your whole auric field, out 3 feet around you, below you, above you. Let it fill this beautiful color. And now you can hold your own with this person and with any other person you come into contact with, because you are in your power. When you feel complete, you can blink your eyes open. And we are complete. And if you have any